What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel as we are coming on here after Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Your Miami Heat falling to the Denver Nuggets 104-93 in what was just a masterful performance by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Their dynamic duo today was, they were sensational every which way. Those two guys working in sync, doing it all for them. Jokic, 27-point triple-double today, 10 rebounds, 14 assists. Jamal Murray, he had 26 points, 10 assists. I think they were the first. What was the graphic they threw up there at the end? It was the first, the second duo to ever have 25 and 10 each since I think it was Magic and Worthy, I think they threw up there. Maybe I'm mistaken. It was a long time ago. So these guys, great performance by them today, as they really had this game in hand. Never really had a true Heat threat. Miami showed some guts. I'll give them that in that fourth quarter. In the third quarter and the fourth quarter, both had a couple of moments where you're like, all right, maybe this is where the run starts. And then, Denver would call a timeout or, and Joker get a couple baskets. And that kind of just put an end to it. A lot of guys from Miami could do a lot better today. This is not one of those games where it's not one of those games where I am really, really worried about the rest of the series, because I do think that there's a lot of guys on Miami who are capable of playing a lot better, especially offensively. And I think for today's game, Denver had a good game, but I didn't feel like they had an overwhelming game either. And I thought Miami showed a lot of good stuff there in that fourth quarter, which kind of puts a couple things to rest going into this series, right? There were a couple of storylines that people were trying to get off the ground. One of them was rest versus rust, which I thought was absolutely stupid. Rest versus rust. First of all, if there was rest or if there was rust, I think the Nuggets found a really great formula to it, which was, hey, let's just keep getting mismatches of Aaron Gordon on point guards and Max Strus, and he can just bully everybody for layups and dunks. And I think that's going to get everybody in their flow. So they just did a great job of picking Miami apart early, getting comfortable baskets, easy baskets, and settling things down. And then for Miami, as far as rust or rest, they looked at, I don't know what you put into them coming into this one, but they had a lot of their starters, especially Caleb Martin and Max Strus, looking like they had dead legs, because they could not hit water if they fell out of a boat. Max Strus, Caleb Martin today, they combined for 1 for 17 from the field, and a cool 1 for 11 from 3. 3 points between two of Miami starters today. And Caleb Martin obviously has been one of the sensations of this playoffs, and certainly in the Eastern Conference Finals. And he really gave Miami nothing today. So you certainly expect a big-time bounce back from Caleb Martin. That's one of the things I'm encouraged by. And then Jimmy Butler, it was just one of these games where Jimmy just didn't feel his impact on the game too much. I think part of that also had to do, though, with the Heat's struggling shooting, because he was doing a lot of that, kicking out, trying to find shooters, and a lot of guys were missing shots. So I think that probably had an impact on Jimmy's line a little bit too. But one of the things that really stands out about this game with Miami is they took 2 free throws, which is an NBA Finals record for fewest in a game, and the only 2 free throws in this game were taken by Haywood Highsmith. So, you're looking at that and you're like, there's some oddities here for Miami's game, and things that you probably don't expect to keep up. Things that can really go in Miami's direction, or they can adjust some things, I think, to get to their game a little bit more, make Denver feel a little bit more uncomfortable. You just never felt, but for this part of this game, you got to give the Nuggets credit. That just never happened. If it was, if it wasn't Jokic finding guys, it was Murray, getting double teams to get it to Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., all of their key guys really today had fantastic games. You can't really look at anybody on their roster and say, oh, that guy didn't show up, because Aaron Gordon dominated early. Michael Porter seemed like he had a clutch shot whenever he needed to, and probably could shoot a lot better from three. Bruce Brown, he had a couple of back-breaking shots. So, I mean, they just had a tremendous performance up and down. And it shows you why they're going to be such a challenge in this series. But if you're Miami and you're looking for things of encouragement going into this and going forward in this series, Bam Adebayo had a really nice offensive game today. He was really the only guy for the Heat who was productive throughout the entire game. He gave you 26 points and 13 boards. And probably, there were a few buckets. Bam could have probably, I honestly think the reason I don't give Bam like an A game is I feel like there were a lot of buckets Bam could have even gotten back, and you're going to talking like maybe a game where Bam's putting up like 33 and even, could have done a little bit more. But you understand that the task that he's got at hand with trying to cover Jokic. But yeah, Bam was, but make no mistake, he was easily the best player on the floor today for the Miami Heat, bar none. And, he's got his hands full with Jokic. I mean, Jokic just shows that ability to dictate. Really didn't even try to score the basketball today up until that fourth quarter, where I think things were getting a little rocky, you could say. No pun intended, for the Denver Nuggets, where, their offense kind of dried up and Miami was starting to get some things going and starting to nail some three-point shots. And, he had like 3 possessions ISO'd on Bam, and Bam's doing all he can do, but it's, Jokic fade away. Jokic shot right over his head. So, like, he just got into some comfort zones, and, you really, I don't know what you do. Like, you jump up and try to block it, and he goes around you and gets an and one. Like, that's why the guy is as dynamic as he is. So it was it was one of those games where, look, you got to get one of these first two. Usually, if you want to have the success, such a hard place to win. They've been so good there, but you also feel like, with Denver, like late, they had like Denver's got this game where they got all this rest. You're like, they got to get this game right. So it's game one. Not overreacted to it. I'm not panicking on it, and especially with the way that I thought Miami had a couple of places where Denver, who was certainly rolling at halftime. What were they up by? It's at the half. I think they were up 17 at halftime. Yeah, they were up 59-42. Shot 60% in that first quarter. And then in the second half of this game, Denver shot 40% in the second half. Miami didn't shoot great either, but you can see that things kind of evened out for Denver a little bit. So I do think there are some things that Miami can get better at to clean things up. There were 2 moments in this game that I thought really where I thought Miami was really going to make the push back, and one of them was in the third quarter. And Miami came out, guns blazing, got onto a good run. Gabe Vincent hit a 3, cut it to 10, and then Bam missed this shot right at the rim. Jamal Murray did a great job of contesting, so props to him for 6'4", going at Bam and deterring this shot. And on the other side, got an and one. And I was like, oh, it was just such a killer, because you're like, oh man, you're gonna come out of this half, you're gonna ride this momentum, you're gonna get a good place, and it goes from a 5-point swing where you could be down 8 to instead you are trailing by 13. And then Martin and Strus both missed 3, and Butler was like in that spot where like he had a couple of looks, wasn't really looking at the rim, gives it up to, Bam, who kicks it to Max Strus for a miss. So that was tough. And then Jamal Murray comes back and he gets an and one foul on Caleb Martin. So that really, I think, solidified that third quarter where, oh, Miami's going to get back in here. Miami's going to get a little bit of a run-ski, and Denver shut that down quick. They were like, no, you guys are not getting back in this one. And at that point, they got to a leads of like 21 at certain points. They ended the quarter, and they were up by 21. And then you're like, all right, this one's over. No shot. And then Miami, they start the quarter on an 11-0 run. And they get it to the Kyle Lowry hits a couple of threes. Gabe Vincent hits a 3. So Miami gets off to this hot start. They cut it to 10, and you're like, holy crap! All right, maybe we can get something going here. This was the only part where I was like, all right, and this happened a couple times. You you have a game with Jimmy. You know it's like only game one, so you don't want to run Jimmy into the ground. But like playing the result here, which I'm guilty of, Joker had a nice find to Jeff Green. So they cut Miami up there, and then he got to the line. So they got it back up to 14, and you're wondering from yourself, all right, should Spo have put Jimmy in there after that first initial run, or did he ride the hot hand of that unit a little bit too much? So, that could be something that you could second guess in that spot. But even still, Miami was still fighting. You had a couple of spots. It was like 16 at that point, and then Jimmy and Bam get something going. You get Haywood Highsmith from Kyle Lowry with 4 minutes left, cut it back to 10. And Miami's this is really where they go to Joker at the end to try and settle things down. He does a good job there, and gets a couple of buckets over to Bam to get things back up to 14. The closest Miami got was a Haywood Highsmith 3-ball from Jimmy Butler that made it 96-87, and from that point on, it was that was the closest Miami was able to get. Haywood Highsmith had a hell of a game today, man. He really did. That was one of the big positives. He continues to play really, really well and provide something. I think this is going to be a series where he's going to be important. If he could just the one thing that Haywood really just has to, I think, shore up is when he causes these turnovers, he's either got to look for somebody who can handle the ball or just shore up, because been a couple of times where he'll cause a steal and then he'll just fumble the ball right back over. That's about the only thing you can complain about his game, because everything else, dude's been a monster. I mean, he really has. And this is such a tough series because, yes, they got size with Gordon, and we saw the mismatches that he was able to get. MPJ has got a lot of length to him. And you really just don't have anybody big who you feel comfortable playing. Cody Zeller, I mean, these minutes remain an adventure. I don't know how hurt. I don't know. I saw some stuff floating on Twitter if Kevin Love is hurt, because Spo not even going to Kevin Love is pretty crazy. They stuck with the same starting lineup. They stuck with Strus, Caleb, Gabe, Jimmy Bam. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, because Cody Zeller, like every time he's out there, dude is fumbles McGee. It's like, stepping all over the place. Like nothing looks like it works with him. I mean, outside of he's like the same size, I guess, as Jokic. So, it doesn't look like a physical mismatch, but you're like, this is such a basketball mismatch because it's Jokic versus Zeller. So, but I don't know what the Heat solution is there. Like, what do you do at that point? If Kevin Love is hurt or Spo doesn't feel comfortable playing, I'm like, what do you do? Do you play, Big Yurt at that point? Maybe. I mean, maybe that's something that they can go to in just spurts, little spurts with Yurts. I don't know if that came out right. Anyway, the point is, from today's standpoint, Denver really had this game in hand the whole time. First 3 quarters of this game, pretty dominant from them. And for Miami, things that you like. One of the other storylines I think coming into this was the altitude. Spo squashed that immediately. And if you're going to say anything of that, if anything, I would say Miami probably looked like the team in better shape at the end. I mean, that might play to rest versus rust. Like maybe, Denver has better legs in the fourth quarter the next game. But Miami, for their standpoint, like they didn't look tired at all at the end of that game. For going into game 2, like you got to find a way. Jimmy's got to find a way to get his. I think it's going to be important for Jimmy to get back to getting guys in foul trouble. Getting guys to dictate the pace of the game, slow things up. He does such a great job of that. And you just never felt like the game was on your terms today. You had a couple of threes where like, okay, you were going to get back into it, but you were kind of hoping and praying on misses. It was never a point where I ever felt like Miami was causing disruption. What did they finish today with turnovers? I feel like they were like none. Turnover battle today, pretty clean game. I mean, 10 for Denver. 8 for Miami. Not terrible for either side of that. Pretty even on points off turnovers too, so that was kind of a push. And then the discrepancy today for Denver, though, is like you look at a game that you ended up losing by 11. Denver was 16 of 20 from the free throw line. You're 2 of 2. I didn't feel like this was a game where it was like Miami was, I'm not pulling like a Monty Williams where I'm going to complain about the foul calls just because of that discrepancy. But literally no Miami starter got to the free throw line. That has to change next game. Like, you got to find a way to be able to dictate, get some guys in foul trouble, something like that, Like, you got to find a way to get them scrambling a little bit more. But it was tough. I mean, like, look, Miami, I think part of what goes to this is Miami couldn't get any shots to drop. And when you can't get any shots to drop, it's a little bit deflating. You don't really have that second level of it to get them to move to anything else. So, happy Miami showed some fight, even though things looked like they were going to get really, really ugly. So definitely got to give him props for that. Bam, great game from him. Kyle Lowry, K. Vincent, they played pretty solid. Haywood Highsmith was really, really good. Your shooters, for the most part, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, nada. And then Jimmy Butler's got to be a lot better. The good news is, you still got a chance on Sunday. You got a couple of days off here, so Miami kind of gets to gather themselves, being in the city, settle down without the hubbub of media day. And get a chance to look at these things and dissect. But it's going to be a challenge. That's a really good basketball team. They got a lot of different ways that they can carve you up. Certainly, this was a game where you thought Miami, the chatter going into this was, we're going to try and make Jokic take tough shots, and Jokic was just like, nah, playa. I'm going to take no shots basically until the fourth quarter, and I'm just going to pick apart everywhere I can. He's good. Hey, news alert. The 2-time MVP, that guy's good at basketball. I mean, are we all hip to this now? It was funny. I was on a Denver station today, and I was laughing with him because, like, how does it feel for you guys now that you have everybody kissing your ass? Because, like, for the most part, everybody's been ignoring you, and the co-host was like, I got to be honest with you, I don't like it. So I thought that was funny because now Denver has like everybody. It's like the Denver show all on ESPN. Which is fun. Now you know how much they hate Miami because it's like, wow, they're kissing Denver's ass. Like, that's how much that they just don't want to talk about Miami at all. But look, the way they played today, they deserved it. Denver, fantastic in that building. You still don't have any celebrities, though, other than Ken Jeong and Denver Broncos. That's a little bit strange. Nobody wants to go to Denver. I find it, I've heard it's a lovely place. I've only actually been to Colorado once, and I did enjoy it. It was a fun family vacation at one point. Either way, back at it on Sunday. I will do another video because obviously Tyler Hero, the whole Tyler Hero thing is a big thing looming, but I think important to just let's talk about the game that's at hand, and then we'll talk about the possibility of Tyler Hero and his pending return to the series and what impact it could make. So that'll come at the next video that I put out. I'll have that out tomorrow. Special guest coming up tomorrow on the radio show, by the way, with me and Leroy. Be tuned in for that on the Tobin and Leroy Show, 560 WQM YouTube page, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. live. You guys can get your reaction, and you can call in at 305-567-0560. You can get in on the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat if you guys want to interact that way. Heat lose game 1, 104-93. Jokic, triple-double. Jamal Murray putting buckets in your face. He got to bounce back in a big way coming up on Sunday.